Yesterday, I was watching a Mia Cole video, and I was asked a good question.
Are YouTube videos art?
You might be asking, who asked you this question? Not getting caught on semantics. I asked myself this question. The majority of people said yes, YouTube videos are art. A lot of people, some people said no. Some people said no, it's just business. Some people said it's not real art, right? Like some of it's art, some of it's not art. Some of it's not real art. Right? To be a real artist, you got to do this other thing. Basically, it was like, is YouTube art? And people were like, yeah, no, sometimes in the middle, kinda, yo. So then, like, what is real art versus fake art?
This isn't valuable. Stop doing that. Remove real art from your vocabulary. That doesn't exist. Except now that you don't get to be the arbiter of creative expression. I do. It's me now.
This obsession with making things art is inevitably going to be the downfall of our ability to even appreciate art.
Some of the people in this video, they seem to have the idea that more artists mean art depreciates. Art is less valuable. People will have a harder time appreciating the art if everybody can be an artist. I think this kind of mimics some similar areas when we hear people talk about AI art, actually. Because is AI art real art? In this video yesterday, it talks about how art takes intent or consensus. That's what it says on my paper right there. So the AI can't intend to make art, but it can intend to create this object that, like, it's meant to be consumed. And the consensus seems to be pretty split on whether AI art is art. So then I asked myself, what is even real, right? Like, what does it mean to be real? Because can an AI make something that's real? Does it have to be humans that make something that's real? Can all humans make something that's real? Or can only some humans make something that's real? For this, we went a little bit deeper. What is the real life? Real life is this thing called the outside. Google defines it as things that are off of the internet, they're offline. I want to ponder for a second. In a perfect vacuum, the outside world, real life, quote unquote, I'm air quoting, but I'm holding too many things, I can't air quote. Real life and the online world, real life and like fake life, the internet, are completely separate in a perfect vacuum, Realistically, they're not a perfect vacuum. Things on the internet have real life impacts on the quote unquote real world. If I think back to my school days, there were kids that would get in trouble for tweets they made, for Snapchats that they put up on a story, for things that they did publicly over the internet. There were real life implications for them. My question is the internet part of the real world? For this, I would be inclined to say yes. The internet has a lot of real life applications. And in addition, the internet merely serves as a resource, as a tool for humans to use to either goat their own information or to give out information, right? They can either be learning things, they could be, echo chamber learning. It could be they're learning things that are incorrect. That is a real thing that happens in real life too. Or they could be learning things that are actually benefiting them. There's a lot of people that are able to educate themselves and learn about things now that has allowed them to help their lives in ways that historically that would have been very difficult, especially for people that are more at odds with the establishments at play. For example, a lot of mental illnesses, mental diagnoses are mainly studied in cis white men. As a result, a lot of people that are not cis white men struggle when it comes to diagnoses in like psychiatry or like therapy or even getting help. Can be difficult for people who are not part of this study group. What is real art? At the end of the day, real art is art that's created. Yeah.
Are YouTube videos art?
I don't know, honestly. I think that okay, so I actually want to look at this let's put on our thinking light. I want to think about YouTube as a form of information synthesis. Each video is an attempt at synthesizing the individual experience that was harnessed by the creator or the creators. It can be multiple in a form of superintelligence. Each video is based on the information and data, the data loaded into the autonomy that created it. So, for example, when I make a video about art and AI, well, let's say for this video specifically, right? I have background knowledge on a fair number, not enough. I'm always learning more. So don't let me misconstrue myself as like an expert or anything, but I have a lot of interest in AI, in psychology, in identity, in communication, and language semantics. So when I'm coming in to this video specifically, everybody else is attacking it in a form of, is this art? Is it not art? Is it, what does it mean to be real art? Whereas I'm asking, what does real mean? What does the qualifier of real mean? And that's because of my own background, right? Everybody will have a different background. Everybody will perceive information differently. For this, I actually want to give you a brief intro into two different concepts that merge into a different concept. The first is called systems theory by Nicholas Luhmann. Systems theory basically says
Systems theory treats an organization as a system. A system can be either closed or open, but most approaches treat an organization as an open system. An open system interacts with its environment by way of inputs, throughputs, and outputs.
systems exist and they further disseminate information in the future, especially if it's like written down. It doesn't always have to be live. There's another that's called it's this thing called the dialectical image. Specifically, I'm referring to the idea of the dialectical image by Walter Benjamin. And what Walter Benjamin says about the dialectical image is that every piece of art that you consume, especially utilizing the internet or like screens essentially, is an interaction between the viewer, so you, and the piece of art, the thing you're watching. The piece of art exists as it does, right? It exists as the pure form of its own existence. But you have all this knowledge inside of your own head that will allow you to interpret this information differently. Depending on your background, you will look at this video and think various things. Perhaps this sparks other things in your brain and you're like, oh, this is like this concept. Maybe you disagree and you're like, no, this can't be true because of this, and this. There are countless ways that you could perceive this, but you are just one part of that dialectical image. The other thing is the art. That's static, but you are changing, and even you today versus you 5 years ago versus you 5 years in the future will perceive this piece of art completely differently. Now, those two combine into this thing called the dialectical systems theory, right? Which says that all systems, so this is people, this is organizations, this is groups, this is AI or artificial intelligences, this is websites, this is books, this is ideas as like systems. So the dialectical systems theory says that all systems are interacting in this way. It's a give and take, it's a push and pull of these interactions. What I wrote here was that the autonomy takes an info from the world, and then they create an object that combines their knowledge of the world and of the thing in the system. Then it creates an output that allows other people to build on top of it, right? So when I make this video, I'm building on top of Mia Cole's video. I'm building on top of all of the people that talked inside of it. I'm building on top of systems theory and Walter Benjamin's dialectical systems theory. Or sorry, it's somebody else that made dialectical systems theory, but Walter Benjamin's dialectical image. I am building on all of these other things, and I'm just extending the conversation. Theoretically, almost anything that people say can be traced back to an original source. And that original source can likely be traced back even further as well, right? We're all just building on top of each other. And I saw something recently that explained philosophy as like a communication through the ages. People in historic times wrote papers, they wrote ideas that people in later times ended up engaging with and saying like, I agree for this reason, I disagree for this reason, you're wrong for this reason, you're right for this reason, I'm building on this for this reason. Like it's a conversation. And I find that YouTube videos Are they art? Are they real art? Is it not art? I have no clue. But I don't think that question matters, actually. Because art is subjective, right? And that's what people are basically saying. It's either intent or consensus. Either the autonomy subjectively intended for this thing to be art, or society subjectively, individuals subjectively do this, consent to this thing being art. So real art is like gatekeepy. It's gatekeepy. But art as a form of information synthesis, as a form of extending the conversation, that's typical. Even if we think of historic things such as cave art, right? Cave art was created by the people that exist for other people. It was built to explain hunts or seasonal cycles or celebrations or like the opposite of celebration, like celebrating a sad thing. This art was used as communication. And communication is still the way that all of these things are created. They're created for information synthesis. It may be art, it may not be art, but it is synthesizing information and delivering it to somebody else. But why is that important? I don't know if it is important, but I'm going to get out of the closet because I'm tired of being in the closet. So at this point, we've established that real life means something offline, theoretically. This is all like, according to other people, this is what this means. Real life means something offline, or like based in physical reality. So far, we've established that real life means something out in the physical world. Real life, physical life. Real meaning physical. Is real art physical art? Is it offline art? That doesn't feel right. As we mentioned, there's a lot of art on here. But what does it mean to be real? Can things on the internet be real? Is this video real? Am I real to you? Am I a real person? For this, I don't know how to answer. I think that in my own personal experiences, I consider internet things to be part of the real life. The reason for this is that a decent amount of my socialization does come through the internet. A decent amount of the interactions I have, the things that I do, my job, my education, many aspects of my life come through the internet. And therefore, I see the internet as real, right? Like, I am so thoroughly integrated with it, even when I'm not actively using it. Let's say I just use my phone and I want to check the weather or something. It is often easier for me, and I get more information from checking the weather app than I do from going outside and feeling the weather. Even if I had a thermometer, even if I had all these different things to help me measure the outside conditions, it would likely still be more useful for me to use the internet. So I'm going to use the internet. I get more data from it, right? And if we think about entropy, as the definition that means data, not the definition that means chaos, although the data is the chaos, there's more entropy in the internet than in many aspects of the IRL world. It also lets us get more data faster. I'm able to learn a lot through the internet, through consuming other people's experiences, through consuming their information, their data, their entropy. I'm able to learn more about the world. I don't necessarily need to experience all of these things myself, because I can learn about many situations and many concepts and many ideas from other people and their synthesis of the information, right? Like when you guys come on here and you watch my video, you are coming to get a synthesized version of the way that I think about a topic. You come here to listen to the way that I am perceiving this data, and then you want to listen to what I find important out of it, maybe. I'm not sure if that's why you watch my videos, but when I watch videos on the internet, I'm looking to learn from other people's life experiences. I'm looking to learn from the things that they've learned, the life lessons that they've received, so that I don't necessarily have to go live it myself. Or if I do want to live it myself, I'm more prepared. There are countless times where I have prepared for a long time for things on the internet. And then I was ready. Like, by the time I actually got around to doing it in person, I was ready. I was able to do it relatively well. I had information about it. I kind of just knew what was going on. Whereas if I went into it blind, I can't say with the same certainty that I would have done as well, or I would have been okay. And part of this is functioning in life. You know, I feel like I have had the opportunity to learn more lessons at this stage in my life than somebody who was, for example, in my parents' or my grandparents' generation. I've had access to essentially an encyclopedia of knowledge for my entire life. Any question that I've had has likely had an answer on the internet. All it takes is being able to find the answer. So I've gotten very good at like learning how to find information so that I can use other people's life experiences, use that data, use that entropy to build on my own, to like skip the line, so to speak. You know, I get to use the fast pass and know the conclusions before I've gone through the processes, but I can also learn the processes. But those are just like individual conclusions along the steps of it. Anyways, I'm talking too much, but I think the overall point of what I'm trying to say is that real art doesn't exist. Art just exists. For this reason, I think AI generated images should be considered art, or we should completely take away the word art because it's irrelevant. It doesn't really mean anything. It really doesn't mean anything. It's just information synthesis. So if we could change the definition of art to mean just like information synthesis, that would be great. But if we don't, then I don't think the term art is a good term to use because it's just inaccurate. And also, it's like gatekeepy, right? Like, oh, I can make art because I'm a human who does art, but you can't make art because you're a human who doesn't do art, and you can't do art because you're an artificial intelligence. No, that's it's just wrong. It's gatekeepy. It's human essentialist. It's ableist. It's classist. It's all the ists. I don't know. It's gatekeepy at the end of the day. It feels very gatekeepy. It feels like it is the incorrect conclusion to this situation. And the reason for that is that art doesn't matter. The internet is real. The internet is physical, is not physical reality. It is mental reality. Even if it's not physical reality, it's real inside of your brain. And if you think about it, all these people that are like, reality exists inside of your brain. Reality is what's inside of your brain. Your brain has been extended to include the internet now. Okay. The world has been extended. Generally, when we use things like books or, scrolls or data, things that have been passed on from the past to the future, we do this in the form of written material, right? And you could consider a book a store of human information. You could consider it a store of entropy, basically, because the person that made it, it's the same thing as a video. The person that made it had a certain view on the world. They are sharing that view. And now it's a dialectical system. You are going to view that book and you're going to interpret it a certain way. And they wrote the book. The book is there, right? So boom, we're good. Now, in the past, we had only IRL physical things to like integrate this with. You could make a book, you could draw a picture, you could write a poem, things like that. Now, with the internet, we're able to disseminate this information much faster. And the internet serves as a storage receptacle for all of this information, right? If you have an issue today and you Google it, odds are somebody has asked the question before. Is the answer that you find going to be from today? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe it's from last year. Maybe it's from 15 years ago. Maybe it's from 8 years ago on some Reddit post. Maybe it's from 15 years ago. Nobody answered it, and you got to ask the question again. But you're like bumping it in the receptacle of storage, right? the information that is available to us with access to the internet is like the most expansive encyclopedia that exists, especially now with tools like ChatGPT and other like large language models. I am personally, if you apply the same like things that I'm saying of like using the internet as a encyclopedia, if you treat the internet like a book, kind of like a book that you can search things up manually, you know, Google is just like your glossary, kind of. You're just searching things in the glossary. This is the human colony. This is the colony of human knowledge, right? Like if all humans were one colony, the internet and the amalgamation of the internet, all of the internet together would be the knowledge of the human colony. For this reason, I do find it to be real. Things that are created here on in the brain of humanity, you know, in the internet, in the brain of humanity, not just humanity, in the brain of earthly autonomies, when things are made, they're just made as extensions. I'm making this video as an extension of Mia Cole's video and systems theory and dialectical systems theory and all these other things that I mentioned earlier. But somebody else can use this and then they can extend on it. Maybe they just find parts of this interesting and they want to talk about it. Maybe, you know, somebody else wants to react to this, and then they're just building further into the system of human consciousness. Not human, earthly autonomy consciousness. And one concept that I used to think about this is take the idea that if you are in a negative headspace and you're spiraling and you're like, I hate myself because of XYZ reason. And that's all you know to say. You're like, I hate myself because of XYZ reason. I hate myself because of XYZ reason. I hate myself because of XYZ reason. That's all that your brain is able to repeat, right? You just, I hate myself for X reason. 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 Now, if you learn other ways to escape that thought loop, right? Either through therapy or through the internet or through, you know, peer support or through just self-exploration, you're able to get to a point where you're like, I hate myself because of blah, 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 but blah, blah, blah. Or like, I hate myself because of this reason and blah, blah, blah. I hate myself because of this reason and da, da, da. Like, you're able to build on it and like reduce the negative impact that it has. You're like, I hate myself, but I am a good human and I deserve to be alive. I will go do X self-care activity to make yourself feel better. So instead of getting stuck in the negative, instead of getting stuck right there in that like repeating loop, you learned a path out of the loop. And the internet is in this as well. A lot of the times there are loops that get stuck on the internet and they just need paths to get out. And once paths are built, new things come out of those paths, right? But it takes getting out of this stick right here. Anyways, I think I'm just rambling at this point. So I hope this was helpful. Let me know if you have any questions or comments, or I don't know. I'll make a part 2 of this. I just don't know what else to talk about. What's coming across as like, this makes sense. This doesn't make sense. You know, what comes across as like, cat, you're full of shit. Cat, you're making a lot of sense to me. You know, just give me your thoughts. Make a video, actually. I want you to extend this for me. Go ahead and make a video. Let me know your thoughts. I'm going to watch every single one. So, yeah, I'll talk to you soon.